You are now watching the Amazing Mets PreGame Show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets PreGame Show right here on both channels, and we are ready to talk all about our Mets and yesterday's coasting win until it wasn't. But we did get the win, and that's what it's all about, getting back to 500, winning 7-5 yesterday, not against Pittsburgh, but against Washington. Of course, there's a typo. What else is new? Chris, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I appreciate it. A win's a win's a win, no matter how ugly it is and how ugly it got. Really impressed with Lindor and Nimmo's continuous resurgence after both of their slow starts. They've been probably the best hitters on this team ever since they got it going in the 1 and 2 spots, respectively. Hats off to them, both homering yesterday, and Quintana tosses another really good performance, and you just like to see that, especially after the last sort of back and forth that you and I had approaching the deadline surrounding Quintana's name. So like I said, I'm excited. You know what I'm going to say. Take the series early, take it often, do it tonight, and then you worry about a potential sweep in game 3. But we'll talk about it all today. Make sure you all are hitting that thumbs up with us. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate it, and salute to everybody in the chat as well. Definitely appreciate you all being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we know the problem with the bullpen, and we actually got some unfortunate news not too long ago as Reed Garrett is going on the IL with some elbow issue. Let's hope it's only arm fatigue. We know he pitched a ton of pitches the last 2 times he was out there. And basically, listen, he gave up his body for this team when they needed him most. And, you know, it's unfortunate. Hopefully he's okay. Again, when you start throwing a new pitch and you're throwing harder than ever, the elbows tends to, play games. And that's the unfortunate part. But the Mets did get the win yesterday, regardless of how they got there. They got there eventually. And listen, the offense has to pick up the bullpen. It's just that simple. The bullpen is not good. Reed Garrett is not there now. Phil Maton is going to be filling that role, most likely. And then Danny Young is also now in the bullpen, and Eric Orzi is back option to AAA. So the bullpen is getting, a little bit of a shift here, a little bit of a difference. It would have been nice with also Reed Garrett in there, but the Mets don't get that lucky. But yeah, I'm very excited about the fact that the offense came back alive again, right? People were worrying about the offense a little bit more, just based off of, they haven't been scoring as they were during that crazy hot streak in June, but they're still scoring a decent amount of runs to win ball games. And, when you got a 6-0 lead going into the 8th inning, it should be a nice, easy victory. And, of course, Ottavino made sure it wasn't. And along with having to bring in Diaz in the 9th, even though it was only for a couple of pitches, you still don't want to bring in Diaz and waste the night where you didn't probably have to use anybody of importance, but you had to. But it's a win, and you just said it, Chris. Lindor and Nimmo. I mean, these guys they're playing like MVP caliber players. Like, I know that's crazy to say, but it's a fact. Like, the numbers are outstanding for both of them. Lindor has just been another player. Like, he's Cleveland-esque ever since he's been in that leadoff spot. I think it's 43 games now. He's been in the leadoff spot, batting over 300, 9 home runs, 30-something RBIs. I mean, he's been outstanding in the leadoff spot. And who knew that's the only thing you needed to fix everything. Who knows what that could mean early in the season if he's a leadoff man. Maybe it would be different. But Lindor and Nimmo are now carrying this team, right? JD Martinez has been struggling. Pete Alonso has been okay. And it's been the Nimmo and Lindor party for, a couple of weeks now, and they've been carrying this team. And we talked about this, Chris, many times, so I can stop my rant and get to you. We needed players to carry a team when things aren't going right? When guys are not performing well offensively, we need somebody else to pick it up. And those 2 guys are. So, I mean, this is what you need to maintain in this race as of right now, a couple of weeks before the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we were calling for before, Rob. I mean, this is exactly what we needed. And Pete Alonso hasn't even been playing like the Pete Alonso that we all know and have come to love over the last couple of years. And Josh, shout out to Josh in the chat saying, how in the hell is Pete Alonso an all-star and Nimmo and Lindor get left off? I haven't spoken on that. I probably won't speak on that, but I agree with Josh and the collective. I think a lot of Mets fans are asking themselves, how is that possible? But we all know the all-star voting, it's very skewed and it's very unfair here and there. So I don't know. There's a culmination of a lot of things. But nonetheless, when you talk about Pete Alonso not even being completely on board in terms of his production and the lineup is rolling, it's great to see. And it's a sign of the potential still that's untapped of this lineup. I really still don't think that this lineup is fully unleashed. I really do think with a couple of roster tweaks here and there, we talk about a guy like DJ Stewart, we talk about a guy like McNeil, whether he's replaced or whether he just simply gets it going. Some guys in between that lineup, along with Pete Alonso, if they also get it going, along with JD Martinez, along with Nimmo, along with Lindor, along with Vientos, then you're really talking about an even scarier lineup, which is completely unfathomable to think about with the way this lineup is going right now. They've been producing runs. They had a little bit of a cold stretch there in that road trip here and there in between. But like I said, all in all, I like the at-bats and I like the approach and what they're taking. Shout out to Christopher as well. Appreciate you. Christopher saying that I've been on a hiatus. Yes, I was on vacation. I have another one coming up this week. I apologize, but I will be here talking Mets baseball because I'm watching this team every single day. Do not worry about that. But yeah, absolutely. Like Lindor and Nimmo are the table setters right now. And that is what we've been wanting them to do. JD Martinez was the first table setter that came alive this season, right? He kind of got the Mets offense rolling and was leading by example. Then you have the lineup switch where you move Nimmo up to the 2 spot where we all thought, and I'm not going to say we all thought, but I thought Nimmo would have been great in that 3 spot. He wasn't. I was wrong. I was always hopeful for Lindor being successful in that leadoff spot, but Nimmo just wasn't quite cutting it there at the 3 spot. So they made another minor adjustment. Now you have your prototypical 1, 2, 3, 4 in the lineup. You plug and play at the 5, whether it's Alvarez, whether it's Vientos, whether it's DJ Stewart. I understand. I get it. I think his time is coming to a close here soon, especially after the All-Star break. And now you're cooking. Now you need to find that consistency in the starting rotation, right? You have a guy, Luis Severino, tonight that's coming off of a stinker in Pittsburgh, looking for a bounce-back type of start. And you have Jose Quintana slowly building up that consistency. Now, what is the main question here with this team? It's obviously the bullpen. We get some help, but then we also lose some help with the subtraction of Reed Garrett. And I was actually very curious in watching Reed Garrett's usage. He appeared in one of those games in the National Series. I believe it was on July 1st. It was the very first Nationals game in that 4-game set in D.C. After that appearance, we didn't see him until July 6th. In that second game, I believe, against the Pirates. So I'm not sure if that's when he started to feel some of that fatigue, that inflammation, and they decided to give him some extended rest. But that was kind of a head scratcher to me when I see that. When a reliever is going 5 days without an appearance, I was like, where's Reed Garrett? But then, like you said, back-to-back Pittsburgh Pirates series games, he needs to appear for 1 inning. He throws a lot of pitches by virtue of how just short this bullpen is, and now he gets some bad news. He felt some forearm tightness. I believe that's the same sort of initial symptom that Drew Smith felt. We hope that it's not a Drew Smith situation 2.0 leading to a Tommy John diagnosis or a Tommy John surgery, but it's kind of wait and see and hold your breath now. But like I said, Reed Garrett on the shelf, next man up, Phil Maton, Orzi gets DFA'd, and guess what? The Mets are still going to look for bullpen help, whether it's internal or external here as the deadline approaches.
Yeah, and look, it is unfortunate, and that's a good point on you when it comes to Reed Garrett not pitching for 6 days. You said, yeah, I mean that could have been an issue. It could have been circumstance, but now that he is on the IL, maybe he did feel something. And maybe he did feel better in a couple of days, and he says, all right, let's try it. You know, Reed Garrett's a bulldog. You see that on the mound, so he wants to be out there. So good news is, you know, let's hope it's not – well, it's not really good news, but let's hope he actually – it's just tightness. It's just overusage, fatigue, and you give him 10 days and he'll come back and hopefully be a part of this bullpen and a successful bullpen, because this team has over a 10 ERA in June and right into July. It hasn't been good. May was 5 ERA, which was pretty bad, and May was really bad. We're over 5 ERA, and April was pretty good. So we just have to hope that we get him back, because this bullpen would be better with Maton and Garrett and Nunez and Buto and Diaz. It sounds a lot better. Now you get Danny Young back, which is good, replacing Orzi. So I think that's a good thing. You get a lefty that actually has shown you something this year other than Diekman, and you need another lefty. You can't trust Diekman right now in any situation. And Danny Young's going to probably be the first guy out of the bullpen left-handed wise.
Can I say something real quick? This is something that really kind of infuriates me about this situation, and why I just can't, I'm just so distraught. Distraught's a little bit over-exaggerated, but why I'm so sad that Reed Garrett and this news came out about him hitting the IL is that, listen, we don't know what the official diagnosis is going to be. He hits the 15-day IL. We'll see what happens when they reevaluate. Surely they're undergoing more tests, etc., to truly evaluate what the issue is and what the source of inflammation is. The problem is that as soon as Phil Maton got signed yesterday, we were on stream when the news broke. We were on our pregame stream. My immediate thought was that, great, this makes Mr. Adam Ottavino expendable. At some point, whenever the Mets decide to pull that trigger, that makes him expendable. Now, that situation and that picture probably isn't true at this point. Yeah. Now, I would hope for it to be, because he comes into the game yesterday and struggles yet again, and we just are kind of wondering when the struggles are going to stop. But yeah, things are different, and the equation is now different when it comes to the bullpen with Maton coming in. Adam Ottavino probably is no longer expendable, unless, well, that doesn't work. They still, listen, the whole point here is that they need to find somewhere to put Jose Buto that's not in the bullpen, find a way to get him back in the rotation, and whether they're going to promote internally or get another piece here early, Adam Ottavino is probably still going to be getting consistent innings, which we don't want. So, yeah. I don't know. I had to point that nugget out there, because I was just listen, I don't want Adam Ottavino on this team anymore. That little nugget right there was the key for me on stream yesterday. And I was so happy, because I was listen, all due respect to Adam Ottavino, and I know that I didn't want him here in the first place. I think his time with the Mets was pretty much came to a wraps last season. But here we are, 2.0 again. But this time, the Mets are still in the race. That's the difference of last season and this season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, when you can't bring Ottavino in a 6-0 lead and he doesn't give up any runs. Mendoza was putting it on a platter for him to try to get going, because you could see he's putting Ottavino in spots that, there's either a decent amount of lead or decent amount of deficit, and he's putting them in there. And, when you can't even keep a long lead and it starts to get a little fishy, Mendoza can't put it to you on a silver platter any better. And, he's trying to get Ottavino going. It's obvious he's pitching him in certain spots to try to get him going, try to get some confidence, because let's be completely honest. We needed him over these last couple of weeks, and he was trying to trust the veteran, and it didn't work out. The same thing he was doing with Diekman. He was trying to put Diekman in spots as well. And, who else are you going to trust, right? You got the veterans out there. You got to put them out there, because there wasn't much, of an option. And when they continue to fail, now Mendoza's options are even smaller right now. And that's the problem with the Ottavino and Diekman situation. I lumped them two together because those two guys, at least Diekman, was brought here to be a difference maker, in bigger spots than what they're getting put in now. And it doesn't matter when you put them in. We can have a 6-run lead like yesterday, and they make it interesting, and you can't keep on doing that. And I understand I'm not blaming Mendoza in this point, because what are you supposed to do? You're not bringing your best arms in a 6-0 game in the 8th inning. You're just not. that's the perfect time to bring in a Diekman or an Ottavino. So I know some people were pissed off that Ottavino was in the game, but that's when you bring him in. Like you expect him to not be great, but not to do what he did. And then it led to, a very interesting 8th and 9th. And you have to, sweat it out a little bit until you get the win. And you still had to use Diaz because of it. So, look, I thought Ottavino was probably going to be on the way out. I think the Mets were still going to have a little bit more of a longer leash with Diekman, because I do believe a lefty, when they find it, because the problem with Diekman right now is that he can't throw strikes. Right? That's his biggest issue. Right? Ottavino, it doesn't matter if he throws balls or strikes, he gets crushed. Like Diekman, I don't think he's been hit hard a lot. I think it's more about the amount of crazy walks he's been letting up since he's been dead. Yeah, too many walks. Ottavino just gets hit. And that's the other issue with Ottavino, which is scary. I think if Diekman starts throwing strikes, I think he's good enough to still be a second lefty in the bullpen. And we have to hope for that. I know I'm probably, speaking out of tongue here and just trying to, wish it into existence. But I do think that I thought Ottavino was gone. I really thought so. And then the Garrett news came out, and it's like, unless Stearns finds another big move, a good arm to replace it, you're going to see Ottavino in probably the same situation you're going to see him last night, or even a game that might be a little bit closer, especially if you don't have the arms available in the bullpen. And you got to use them. Like, you can't keep on going to the same guys, because you're going to have a Reed Garrett situation on the IL and God forbid get somebody hurt, and now you lose another arm in that bullpen, Chris.
Are you surprised that just random question. Are you surprised that the Mets pulled up Danny Young today instead of the newly acquired Matt Gage, who's also, I believe, a lefty?
I
believe Matt Gage is a lefty, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe he is. I think so. I think
I think he's a lefty, so I'm kind of surprised that they did that.
I think because they know Danny Young, and Gage hasn't really been good this year. I think they want him to go with somebody they can trust. And Danny Young has been trustworthy, at least to this point. So I wouldn't I guess that's the reason. Maybe Diekman is on his way out. Maybe they're going to see what they get from Gage in the minors. Maybe they can do some quick adjustments with him, like Phil Maton did with the Rays, and he's been better over his last 11 outings. Maybe they're trying to find something. Maybe they see something that they can fix him, and maybe that's when Diekman will be DFA'd. But I'd rather have Danny Young at this point. I trust him. I don't know what we're getting from Gage, and I don't think you can bring these guys like a guy like Gage, who hasn't really had a good season and hasn't really turned anything around, unlike Maton. So I guess the trust factor, and maybe it was Mendoza's call telling Stearns, hey, listen, you got to give me a lefty in here that I can trust. Like, because you can't use Diekman right now. As much as he probably wants to, because what options does he really have? Danny Young at least is a good enough option, who's actually shown something this year, just like Nunez. Nunez and Young, we forget, during that stretch when the Mets are winning a lot in June, Danny Young and Nunez were a big part of that, winning a lot of those games.
Particularly Nunez, Rob. Yep. Like, think about what this bullpen would be without Daniel Nunez. Like, please, can everyone just take a step back and think about, during that stretch that Rob was talking about, where this bullpen would be without Daniel Nunez? Tip of the cap to him, because I was saying weeks ago, if this bullpen ever gets to a point where they find some consistency and they find the proper guys to plug and play, I would love Daniel Nunez to be the everyday setup guy. But unfortunately, the Mets just don't have that luxury to only use him for one inning right now. It's unfortunate, because I really do think that is his ceiling. 8-9, you need to lock a ball game down. You have a lead in the 7th inning, or you go into the 8th inning with a lead. Daniel Nunez, Edwin Diaz, boom, boom, you win the ball game. But the Mets bullpen right now, Mendoza does not have that luxury, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the Mets are trying to well, it's unfortunate because of the untrusted arms that we have right now. I think they want Nunez as just a one-inning guy. I know we can go multiple innings, but it's great for that game, but then you lose him for at least 2 games. And I think that they want him to be the setup man. And if you get him to be the setup man, and you have at least two other guys that can do 6th and 7th. Now you can use Nunez for multiple outings, multiple games, which is only going to help your bullpen to lead to be the bridge to Diaz. And I think that's what they're trying to do, because I think that's why Phil Maton is here. Not just because they have been bad. I think they see Nunez has a lot of potential. He's been good for us. Yes, he can go multiple innings, but that's not ideal for the Mets long term. Right now, it's not. Because you pitch him today 2 innings, he's done for the rest of the series, going into the Rocky series for at least a game. So that's what they need to prevent. And I talked about this on the last stream, that the problem with the bullpen, yes, you got multiple inning guys, but when you use multiple inning guys, at least two of them, they're done for a couple of games. And that's the issue, because now you go into your B level options in the bullpen for the remaining at least 2 games. And now Mendoza has, okay, I got to get through this 7th and 8th inning so I can still have either a Diaz or somebody else, a couple, 1 or 2 other guys that he trusts. And that has been the problem. Like yesterday was a different story, because they had a big enough lead where you would use your B-level guys, and it just happened to not work out. But it has happened a lot more often. So I think that's what they're trying to do, because if you extend these guys to 1 inning and you spread them out through different, a new 2 or 3 or 4 games, or at least 3 games in a row, it's only going to help your bullpen going forward, because they're available more often for Mendoza, and that's what has to happen. Like Maton, I'm not 100% sure, Chris, if he's durable enough to go multiple games in a row. I'm assuming we're going to find that out real soon, since we don't have a lot of trusted guys. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on Maton, though, when it comes to, like, I've seen the amount of appearances, but I don't know if he's like a 3-day in a row type of guy.
I don't think he is, and that's like kind of goes hand in hand with what Daniel was saying in the chat. I think it's a very valid point. I saw it myself in Washington, where he comes into the game and he goes a couple of innings. Well, the whole reason for you to bring Jose Butto back up into this bullpen instead of the rotation is to give you that length, maybe be an Adrian Hauser 2.0. So I would like, if Maton is not that durable, let's say he's a 1-inning guy or maybe a 2-inning guy every other day instead. Like I said, the jury is out on Phil Maton. We don't know what version of him we're going to get, because he's had 2 different versions of himself so far this season with the Tampa Bay Rays. So that jury is still out. But I really do think that Jose Butto could be that X factor in the bullpen to sort of utilize more and eat these innings up, because he's capable of doing it. We saw him eat innings up, go into the 6th inning a lot of times as a rotation starter. Maybe even 5 1/3, 5 2/3. And he doesn't seem to be affected by coming out of the bullpen or being a starter. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to come out there and pitch regardless the way that I pitch. And that's just kind of the mentality that I perceive from Jose Butto. So I really do think the Mets ought to use him more. But the only explanation that I can have to your question, Daniel, is if they don't want to do that, and if they haven't been doing it with Jose Butto, that probably is a sign to come that they are ready to put him back in the rotation sooner rather than later. That's the only explanation that I have for you, because I think that you're right. He would be the perfect guy to eat those innings up. I wouldn't rely on even Phil Maton to do so. I don't think that a guy that throws junk primarily, like Phil Maton does, he's just on the cusp of touching 90 miles per hour with any of his pitches.
Yeah.
So I don't think a junk baller like that's going to give you bulk innings, especially in tight ball games. Maybe the way that Adrian Hauser had and has done so far, even though he's kind of struggling a little bit as of recent. I don't know. There's so many question marks, but I really do think that the jury is out on Phil Maton. He reduced his ERA by a whole 2 points over the last, 12, 13 innings, like you said on yesterday's stream. We know what he possesses. He's a ground ball type of pitcher. He will eat outs for you. That's not a question. He will do that. But the question is how many? Is he going to be a multiple inning guy? I'm very wary that they're going to use him in that sort of scenario, especially because they've been doing so and relying on Daniel Nunez for multiple innings, who, by the way, only threw 8 pitches yesterday, which is good. So then we'll probably have him available tonight if need be. But yeah, I don't know. I like me talking about this team and watching them every day. I can't grasp a clear strategy with their bullpen strategy and their bullpen usage. It's kind of like, and I'm not accusing of the Mets organization or Carlos Mendoza or whoever's making these decisions of just like doing it on a whim. But like it seems like every single day or every single series, it seems to be a little bit of a different strategy. Now, the consistent strategy is Edwin Diaz is your closer. He wins you a ball game if need be. Daniel Nunez is next in line, but we're going to use him for 2+ innings if need be, or 1+ inning if need be. But the rest, it's a wild card.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. So I'm very curious with that myself. But I really do think that everybody in this chat, as well as myself and Rob, need to keep an eye out on Jose Butto. Because I really do think right now it's a head scratcher myself for thinking like, why is he not going multiple innings? Why is he not being that bridge guy? Maybe he will with Reed Garrett gone. Maybe he will. I don't know.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is, and we talked about it with Christian Scott with the innings limit and pitch limit. I think they're concerned they're going to hurt these guys. Like we keep on talking about wins and win any cost. Well, as much as the organization wants to win, they also don't want to blow out these kids' arms. Like they don't want to do that. And look, the situation calls for Jose Butto to replace Nunez as the multiple inning guy. Nunez needs to be the 8th inning guy and needs to be available for multiple days in a row. Right? Jose Butto needs to be that guy, but are they willing to do that? Like Jose Butto, I know he's a bulldog. I know he would pitch in any moment in the bullpen. Doesn't matter. Pitch 3 days in a row. I think he would do that. But would the Mets do that? Right? Like Mendoza might have a whole list and be like, listen, we can't pitch Jose Butto more than this. Like that might be the case because if we already seen it. They're already protecting the arms, yet still trying to win. And look, that motto, that kind of way of doing things usually don't work out too well. I'm sorry, right? 2015, I know this is going back to Matt Harvey, but there was the Harvey rules prior to Harvey saying, F this, I want to pitch. And we were going down the stretch on making a run into the playoffs or the rest of the season. And they were trying to protect his innings because, well, that was what Boris wanted and protect that golden arm. And Harvey was like, no, because he was getting a lot of criticism. I know that's not at the level that we're talking about here, but it kind of is when you need this bullpen to have certain areas of where they need to be, right? Butto needs to replace Nunez for extra innings, for multiple innings a game, right? Nunez needs to be the 8th inning guy, needs to be the setup role to bridge for Diaz, right? Hauser is already that multiple inning guy. That's what needs to happen. And hopefully Maton is a guy that can go 2 or 3 days in a row and in a piece, and then you lengthen out your bullpen a little bit more. Now, is it going to work? Who knows? But I really think it's the whole aspect of keeping these arms healthy. And, when you're a starter for the majority of your career, or at least minor league career, and they throw you into the bullpen, you got to be ready at a moment's notice for 2 straight days or multiple innings. I think they worry about getting them hurt. And if you get them hurt, not only do you affect the present, you affect the future as well. I think that's the big reason why you're not seeing Butto jumped in to that multiple inning role right away.
And I kind of like with this whole conversation, kind of like closing it up with the bullpen, because we could talk about hours and hours and hours of content regarding this bullpen right now. I foresaw this problem happening. Not the problem, but I foresaw this situation happening with this Mets team when looking at the starting rotation and having the bullpen needing to endure some extra stress, right? And I thought that this bullpen really was built to last and endure that stress that the starters may create for them by not going 5 innings, by not reaching 6 innings, etc. But you can't foresee as a GM, as a manager, even as a player yourself, you can't foresee injuries. Like that's something you really can't account for at the end of the day. And the Mets have been plagued by injuries in the bullpen. Now, what I will say is that, okay, great, you can't account for it, but you know what? You got to hit the phones and you got to keep hitting the phones because right now, the personnel that we are seeing, it's more than enough sample size when you're talking about a team that's in the hunt for a wild card at this point in the season to justify making those moves. The Mets all season long have not been shy to pull the quick trigger on players that weren't cutting it. Diekman, Ottavino, I think that this now applies directly to those guys. David Stearns did a great job getting on the phone with the Rays organization to get a player in the door that they were already scouting and they're already coveting during the offseason. That came straight from David Stearns, right? So they need to keep working those phones.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they haven't been. All I'm just saying is that it's an extra emphasis. It's extra stress on them now to get this right. Because at the end of the day, with what we've seen, we can't trust these guys in the bullpen. So I'm not saying that the front office hasn't done a good job of it. I'm just saying they have to keep doing a good job of going out there and being proactive, because this is the type of hybrid roster. This is what you get at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yep.
You go out there and you sign these starters. You go out there and rely on previous starters and David Peterson and McGill, who've never shown you that they can be pitchers that go deep in ball games. So, okay, bolster up the bullpen. Great job, NY committee. Another name to keep an eye on. Fujinami also struggles with walks. We'll see what happens with him, because I think he just returned back from injury. A lot of options. I'm just curious what the Mets decide to prioritize. Maton is just the tip of the iceberg. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and Stearns talked about it when he talked about the Maton trade, that he's been talking to the Rays for a couple of weeks. And you got to remember, a couple of weeks ago, nobody's trading anybody of significance when they still think they're in the race, right? The Rays look like they're probably going to be some type of seller at the deadline. And look, he said he's been on the phone talking to the Rays and multiple teams over the last couple of weeks. But again, it takes two to tango. Stearns need all the bullpen help he needs. He could try to get it, but that doesn't mean teams are going to be willing, to say, hey, listen, we might be still in this thing. We don't want to get rid of this guy yet. And, he falls into that situation where it's like, what is he supposed to do except start doing internal moves with, like the Fujinamis, the Danny Youngs, the Nunez's, Orzi's, all those type of guys. And yeah, I think Stearns is working the phone. It's getting up to the point now where teams are going to start making a decision on buying or selling or staying pat. That's when Stearns is really going to be working, because I've seen Stearns do it in the past multiple times with the Brewers. The one thing he always seemed to get was bullpen help with the Brewers, because he was never getting that big bat. He was never getting that big starter that a playoff team, a team that's in the race for the playoffs seems to get, because he had no money with the Brewers, and the obvious choice was to get more bullpen help. And he done that a lot. I looked at his last 4 seasons with the Brewers as a GM, he never brought in the big bat, never brought in the big starter, but he brought in 9 relievers. And they were actually quality arms that didn't require a lot of money, gave up a couple of prospects. So I think he'll be willing to do it. And he's done it before. And I trust Stearns to find the right bullpen arms. Maybe not the elite of the elite, because I don't think you're going to be giving up top 5 prospects for bullpen help, even though I'm always one that says, worry about the present and the future be damned. I think we kind of played this game way too much over the last couple of years, where we're so concerned about giving up a prospect when you have an opportunity here to make a run, and you don't do it because of the quote unquote good prospect or great prospect or best prospect. I'm not saying to give up, Jet Williams for an elite arm, but you really have to start wondering, if this lineup, without Alonso doing well and JD Martinez streaking, if they're going to be this for the remainder of the season, scoring 5.5 runs per game to 6 runs per ball game, which no reason why they should not do that, because they haven't even got to the level that I think they can get. If they can do this, all you need is a quality bullpen. You need not a great bullpen. You need a quality couple, at least 4 or 5 quality arms that you trust every single day, Chris. And I think Stearns is going to do that. And obviously this Maton trade is telling you and us that Stearns will be going for it at the deadline. We will be buyers, unless a disaster over the next 2.5 weeks happen, which I don't see happening. He's already going for it, in my opinion. He's got to do what he's got to do to get this bullpen on track for the dog days of summer and into the fall.
Yeah, I agree. That's perfectly said. I have nothing else to add on to it. That's it. That's perfectly said.
All right, so let's talk about today, because today's game matters. We got Luis Severino, as Chris said earlier in the stream, who struggled last time out, and I think Severino's going to bounce back. And not only that, it makes me feel good that Patrick Corbin's on the mound because the Mets light up Patrick Corbin, specifically at home as well. Even though the Mets never score runs, even though they've been scoring runs at home over the last couple of homestands, they kill Patrick Corbin. And this guy better not get out of the third inning, in my opinion, because Corbin can find it. If you don't get to him early, his breaking stuff starts to get figured out in certain games. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to get shut down by Patrick Corbin because all I'm going to hear is the Mets police, Mets fans police that are going to say the team sucked, the game is over, the season's over, and all that fun stuff. And that's what you're going to hear. But you got to beat up Patrick Corbin today. Don't give no breath to this team at all. Like, you don't. Could we put 10 runs up? I know we put up 6 yesterday or 7 yesterday, and it should have been more than enough. But could we have a laugher? Could we have a 13-1 game so I can go to sleep a little bit earlier and not have to bite my nails and worry and get like 2 hours of sleep before work? Please, I would like that. I know I'm being a little selfish here, but everybody knows what time I go to work. I would like to go to sleep a little earlier and enjoy and not have to wake up and, squint at my phone and pray that we didn't lose that ball game. I know that's a little bit of a stupid rant, but how do you feel about Severino tonight? And you could start off with the lineup after about Severino, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I have high hopes for Severino. I think everyone should, especially against this. I'm not saying the Nationals lineup is bad. All I'm just saying is that he's had some success against the Nationals. I think that he really is due for a good start. Like, his last great start was against the Cubs, from what I understand, right? He's had a couple of iffy starts in between, low strikeouts, I think 3 strikeouts apiece ever since that Cubs win that he got. It's all about command for Luis Severino. It really is. He has such a vast arsenal, so it's really about just his location. We know he has also the velocity to go with it. So I think he's really a complete pitcher. We always talk about him being the anchor of this rotation. He just needs to finally go out there and just get over the hump and do it this time around. I think nothing better, and there's no more of a perfect scenario than getting your team, right, and getting your offense some help in terms of putting the team on your back, posting zeros, not even posting zeros, but just having a solid game, 3 earned runs or less. Give me a quality start in order to kickstart this team going back over 500. Tonight's a perfect night to do it. It really is. And it is because you know who your counterpart is in Patrick Corbin. And if history repeats itself, this lineup, we would hope and think, is going to put up runs. So, yeah, absolutely. I have full confidence in Luis Severino. There's really no reason for me not to have any confidence in him. I would probably tell you something different if a guy like Tyler McGill was on the mound. I probably wouldn't be saying that right now. But with Luis Severino, I do have full-fledged confidence that he's going to go out there and sort of get back on track after that abysmal Pirate start that he had and what turned into an absolute laugher in Pittsburgh that day. But this lineup, absolutely 100%. I think Pete Alonso mashes Patrick Corbin. You got Francisco Alvarez right there in that 6th spot as well. I'm really curious. I think they're wearing their black jerseys tonight as well, if I'm not mistaken, which is a little bit of a peculiar. I think they are.
Wednesday?
Don't quote me on it. I think they are. I think.
I'm going to check their account. Usually they change
I don't
it.
know, though. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But regardless, I agree with you. Put up some damn runs for Luis Severino. There's really no reason not to. Are they or are they not?
Yeah, they just posted with the lineup, and it has the black jerseys. So
there you go. Okay, so
yeah,
see, it's not even Friday night, and we're getting the black jerseys on a Wednesday. Exactly. There you go.
I don't know.
So yeah, and I think what's really underrated about this Mets team is that you were right. The trend continued from last night, where you see a pitcher the second time around, and they jump all over him. Yep. Jake Irvin in that start against the Mets in Washington, 8 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. And guess what happens yesterday in Queens the second time around? Same thing happened to Shota Imanaga. right, in Chicago. So I'm not saying that the Mets are going to do that 2.0 here tonight, but like I said, this team has seen this pitcher many, many, many times, especially for the guys that have been on this team facing the Nationals over the last couple of years. So I like my odds because history tells me if the Mets lineup sees pitchers more, they will be making those necessary adjustments than what they had versus the first time around against said pitcher. So perfect day to get a win. I need it. We'll be going live, hopefully, for the post game. Barring anything sort of unforeseen, I'll be joined by Nick from the He Did This to Me podcast, recurring guest for the post game here on my channel. So make sure you're staying tuned to that. I will update the community tab if anything changes, but I do believe we are locked in for a post game tonight. So let's talk about a win because I don't want to come on and talk about a loss, although I will if need be.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, this lineup should match. I like the lineup tonight. No McNeil, no Stewart. You got Iglesias. You got Taylor back in that lineup again. I like that very much. And 1 through 6, 1 through 7. I mean, is just. I mean, I don't want to be a pitcher today against the Mets, honestly. Like, the bullpen might make it interesting as always, but this offense is gonna match. And I'm gonna go on a limb here since I never talk about positivity with this guy, but I will. Pete Alonso crushes Patrick Corbin, okay? If you guys are bettors, home run tonight and 2 hits. Put that down. That's probably at least plus 730 something, most likely, because I think Alonso's been a little bit on the higher end, on the plus side for a home run. So home run and 2 hits tonight. That's at least plus 750. Probably, most like maybe 700. But I tell you right now, Alonso's going to have a game.
I never thought I'd hear the day. Chat, please take advantage of this. This is huge insider information right here from the man himself.
Listen, the guy who never, or at least most people believe I never say nothing positive about Pete Alonso. There's your positivity. Look, if Pete Alonso doesn't break out tonight and he looks bad, worry. Worry more than you already are about Pete Alonso because I'm concerned. And I want to bring up Pete Alonso. I apologize, Chris, because I think this is the one guy that can bring this lineup to a different level, even a bigger level than what they are right now. Because he has been kind of like status quo. Like a lot of people saying, oh, Pete Alonso has been fine. The Mets can't have Pete Alonso being fine. You need him to be elite Pete Alonso. He needs to be on that next level. And if he can get there and it starts tonight, listen, where do I sign? Because we need him. As much as I talk negative about him, this lineup needs him right now. With JD Martinez struggling a little bit, we need somebody in the 3-4 spot to do even more damage because Lindor and Nimmo have been doing all the damage and they've been getting on base. How many times yesterday or over the last couple of weeks, Pete Alonso has been getting a ton of runners on base and haven't been doing the job. And it's been Vientos, it's been Alvarez, it's been Iglesias that has to pick up Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso needs to pick up guys. How about picking up Martinez, who basically saved this season when he was the only one hitting right when he hit that game-winning home run against the Marlins and went on a 3-week stretch of just mashing the ball. He carried this team. And then Lindor and Nimmo are carrying this team now. When is Alonso going to carry this team this year? Right? Is it going to be if we fall out of it? Because that's when it usually happens. No, I want it now. Pete, you got 5 games until the All-Star break. Have a month of July that I can't even deny. How about that? Right? Your most negative critic. I want to have egg on my face. I want people coming back at me because I'm criticizing Alonso because I expect more from him. That's the difference. I'm not criticizing him just to get views or piss people off. I want him to, because I know we can get to that next level. That's why I'm so frustrated by him. And if he gets going, along with the rest of these guys that have been going for a month and a half now, watch out. This team is going to be very, very hard to beat. And they're already hard to beat now. It's not an easy lineup anymore. And I expect Alonso to start getting going tonight. Once again, home run, 2 hits if you are bettors out there. Sorry, Chris. I just had to say that.
Big rant. I mean, I fully agree with you. It's very valid to have concerns, and it's very valid to feel frustrated at Pete Alonso, especially with all the other guys that are doing their job and playing their part, right? Even Harrison Bader, as Stoney's saying here in the chat, is absolutely on fire and has been posting an above average season compared to his standards with the bat. Nimmo and Lindor on fire. JD has already carried this team, and we know what he's about. Vientos is having a stellar season since coming back up for the second time. Alvarez is coming into his groove after an abysmal stretch when he first came off the IL. Everybody, Tyrone Taylor has even been doing really well, right, with the bat. Like, everybody is doing their job. And Pete Alonso, like you said, I am so in agreement with you. We cannot have Pete Alonso just be quote unquote okay. If this Mets lineup wants to get to the next level, like both of us have said in this stream, absolutely, we need Pete Alonso to do better than what he's doing right now. And I always am the type of person that's like, listen, the guy consistently posts his numbers. He consistently gets the 38 to 40 home runs, the RBIs, etc. But right now, I'm usually one to push back on the timing of it because I do think that Pete Alonso is a little bit more of a quote unquote clutch player than a lot of people give him credit for. Like, he does have a lot of instances where there needs to be an insurance run, etc., that he comes through in. But I'm talking about within the 162 game season. This is where the Mets need Pete Alonso to come alive. There is no denying that. I will not deny that. And everybody right now watching this team in this lineup and how well they're doing shouldn't deny it, because we as Mets fans shouldn't be settling for just okay, right? And putting up however many runs we're putting up right now. When we know this lineup has more to offer, we should be clamoring for that. Quite simple. So that's my take on it. And I agree with you. Smash that bet button on Pete Alonso, whatever prop you want on him tonight. Follow it. And hopefully, I believe like committee said in the chat up top, I'm not going to scroll up. Hopefully there's no golden sombrero involved.
Yeah, we don't need that. Listen, if Pete Alonso, who has probably his best numbers against the pitcher tonight in Patrick Corbin, if he doesn't get it going tonight, I'm worried. I'm going to be worried about that because he crushes. I mean, Patrick Corbin has nightmares of Pete Alonso. That's how much Pete Alonso has beat up Patrick Corbin. So let's get it going again tonight. Hey, we win tonight. We got another series victory, and we go for the sweep tomorrow. That's what. No doubt today. This is what I want. I want a no doubt win. Put up 10 runs. I know it's a lot to ask for a lineup has been scoring a ton of runs, but you know what? Make no doubt about this game. Make it an easygoing game. Win the series and go into tomorrow for a sweep. And listen, you start 3-0 in this homestand. You're going against a Rockies team that's not very good. Now you can really start talking about 5-1 and 6-0. Win tonight. Get the job done. There's no reason why you lose this game tonight. Severino is going to bounce back. There's no reason why he shouldn't bounce back because he's shown it all year. This lineup is going to mash tonight, and Pete Alonso is going to be the player of the game today. That's right. Positivity for Alonso from Rob. 100%. I know that's from the, I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. But once again, guys, tonight, Severino, Corbin, Mets are trying to get back over 500. And I appreciate everybody in the chat. Over 217 in the stream. That's an insane number for a pregame. I do appreciate that, guys. Go check out To Mets Do Us Part. I know we kind of ran into the same around the time, but make sure you tune in with Ibby right now, who is doing always a good job on his stream. So make sure you tune in right after this stream is over for him.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely. Another 20, 30 minutes.
Final thoughts. Just win.
Go, please.
Just win. That's all I got.
That's right. Just win. That's been working for the hot streak that we're still currently on, I would think, even though we haven't really lost many series at all. But with that said, guys, the Amazing Mets pregame, another one in the books. Let's get another win. Let's get a game over 500. Severino, it's your night. Alonso, it's definitely your night. With that said, everybody have a great night. Enjoy the game. Let's go Mets, and we'll see you, Chris and Nick, tonight on the post game. Have a great night, guys. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets. meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets